In the 5th year of caring for her paralyzed boyfriend, Hazel Harper carried her fishing creel home, only to find Lucien Lancaster lying on the floor, the house once again trashed. As she grabbed an oar and rushed over, the back of her head was struck by a wine bottle. Blood trickled down her scalp, but Hazel seemed immune to the pain. She threw herself in front of the wheelchair, shielding him with her back from a flying stool. "Don't touch him," that night, while getting stitches at the clinic, the old doctor shook his head. "Young lady, if this leaves a scar on the back of your head, how will you find a husband?" She just stared blankly at the dripping IV bag. The weather forecast predicted a storm tomorrow. Delivery fees in the city would be higher during the rain. If she took a few extra orders, maybe she could pay off the debt by next month. Then, she and Lucien could finally live a peaceful life. On a stormy afternoon, Hazel cycled through floodwaters for 2 hours before finally reaching the delivery address, the city's most luxurious hotel, the Golden Palace. Outside the penthouse suite, just as she handed the items to the butler at the door, she heard the click of billiard balls from inside. "Big L, this bitter flesh act of yours is brilliant," a man's laughter mixed with the crisp sound of ice hitting a glass. "Directing and starring in a fake car accident and pretending to be crippled for 5 years, just to chain that fishwife to the island to slave away from me?" Hazel froze, trembling. She pressed her eye to the crack in the door. She saw the man she had to lift into his wheelchair every day. He was now wearing a bespoke suit, the tip of his leather shoe resting against the pool table as he used a cue stick to lift a cigar offered by the butler. Where was any sign of illness or frailty? Even more familiar was the tattooed man standing next to him, Tattooed Tony, the debt collector who had waved a baseball bat yesterday, shouting that he'd feed her to the sharks if she didn't pay up. "I heard that girl really is the long-lost daughter of the Sterling family." Tony slumped onto the sofa, his gold chain glinting against his collarbone. "Big L, aren't you afraid she'll successfully reclaim her identity and turn around to deal with you?" Lucien tapped the ash from his cigar, the corner of his mouth lifting in a mocking arc Hazel had never seen before. "The Sterling heiress? Her? She reeks of fish, disgusting and unlucky. She's not even fit to carry Victoria's shoes." Hazel's ears began to ring. For 5 years, she had never heard him speak with such a knife-like tone. The man who would pick fish bones out for her late at night, who praised her saying, "Hayes's fish soup smells better than a Michelin star restaurant," now seemed like a stranger, a demon. Back then, she deliberately broke Victoria's hand and stole the piano championship. That wasn't enough. Now she wants to steal Victoria's position as the Sterling daughter. Life isn't that beautiful. Lucien suddenly gripped the cue stick tight, the rosewood creaking under the pressure. "I feigned paralysis and poverty to play out this tragic drama with her for 5 years just to vent Victoria's anger. Once Victoria secures the inheritance rights next month." He chuckled low, his eyes narrowing with a glint of ice. "You guys arrange another accident to help me get rid of Hazel Harper completely." Hazel staggered back, the world spinning and disintegrating before her eyes. She stumbled into the elevator, tripped by the soft carpet. As grand fireworks lit up the night sky, the glass reflected a face streaked with tears. Facing the strange looks from passing guests, she crawled up like a walking corpse and stumbled out of the hotel. When the rain came crashing down, the wound on the back of her neck began to bleed again, mixing with the rain and flowing into her collar. She finally couldn't hold it in anymore and squatted at the foot of the hotel steps, breaking down in tears. No matter what, she didn't want to believe that the sneering Lucien Lancaster and the man in the wheelchair were the same person. She dared not believe that she was truly the lost bloodline of the Sterling family. Memories from 5 years ago suddenly surged. Victoria Sterling, jealous of her piano talent, used her family's background to bully her frantically, forcing her to consider dropping out of school. It was Lucien who stepped forward to protect her, accompanying her to class, practicing piano with her, tirelessly helping her adoptive parents mend fishing nets, and even using his body to block an out-of-control truck the night she won the piano competition. But now she knew. The accident was fake, the paralysis was fake. Even the high-interest loans her adoptive parents owed before they died were a play orchestrated by him. To repay Lucien for saving her life, she gave up an invitation from a renowned orchestra and chose to stay on the fishing island, taking care of Lucien while paying off the debt. She braved the wind and sun to fish during the day and worked several part-time jobs at night, sleeping less than 5 hours a day. Hazel had repeated this hellish life for 5 years. She thought holding on until the end would bring the dawn, never imagining she was just spinning in circles in the abyss. But she hadn't hurt Victoria. It was clearly that woman who, afraid of losing before the competition, twisted her own finger and framed her. And the man before her eyes had acted along for 5 years. When the rain stopped, Hazel's tears had long since dried. She took out her phone, tapped on the strange number saved as Sterling Assistant, and dialed with trembling hands. "Hello, this is Hazel Harper." She tilted her face up, the corners of her mouth pulling into a smile uglier than crying. "Please tell Chairman Sterling that I am willing to take the paternity test." The assistant's voice was filled with joy. "Miss Harper, you finally thought it through? Chairman Sterling gave instructions early on that as long as you nod, we can arrange it anytime. Let's do it tomorrow." Hazel cut him off, her fingernails digging deep into her palm. In fact, Hazel had met the Sterling couple a long time ago. Once, at a hot spring, the tattoo sticker on her back washed off, revealing the unique birthmark underneath. Behind her, Mrs. Sterling stared at her, eyes suddenly red. Later, the Sterling couple explained the situation simply. Their biological daughter had an identical birthmark on her back. They suspected Hazel was the switched Sterling heiress and asked her to go to the hospital for a test. But at the time, she found it absurd and refused with a smile. "You've got the wrong person. My parents are fishermen." Now she believed it, and she finally understood why Lucien was always so nervous about her birthmark, making her cover it with a tattoo sticker. In moments of passion, Lucien would kiss that birthmark repeatedly, his voice tender as water. "Be a good girl, Hayes. Only I can see this. Don't show it or I'll get jealous." She had once secretly rejoiced at his possessiveness. Now, remembering it, only ridicule remained. At 3 a.m., Hazel returned home to find the lights still on. Pushing open the door, Lucien sat in his wheelchair, having changed into that white tank top that had yellowed from washing. Seeing Hazel's reopened wound, he panicked and wheeled himself over. "Hayes, why did you go to work before your injury healed? I've been worried all day." She stared at his trembling fingertips, remembering that just hours ago, these hands were holding a cigar and tapping ash. "Worried?" She sneered internally, but outwardly lowered her eyelids, letting her wet hair cover the turbulence in her eyes. "My injury is fine, I'm just a little tired." Lucien didn't notice anything unusual. His long arm circled her waist, pulling her into his embrace, the tip of his nose brushing behind her ear. "If you're tired, sleep a bit. I'll watch over you." The familiar scent of cedar mixed with tobacco hit her face. He began to hum the nursery rhyme her adoptive mother used to sing, his palm patting her back rhythmically. After her adoptive parents died, Hazel suffered from frequent insomnia. Lucien had spent a month bitterly practicing this song to sing to her every night. Falling asleep to Lucien's singing, Hazel had dreamed countless times that his legs were healed, the debts were paid, and they lived a happy life. Usually, she could fall asleep to the song, but this time she had no drowsiness, biting the blanket tightly with tears streaming down her face. How she wished this was a dream where she woke up never having met Lucien, without a complicated background, still the pearl of her adoptive parents, living an ordinary life on the small island. The singing behind her faded, and the man's breathing steadied. In the silence, a small white ball crawled out from under the bed, a wet nose rubbing against the back of her hand. The little guy was named Pippin, a stray dog Hazel and Lucien had picked up on the island. The puppy seemed to sense her sadness, whining and drilling into the crook of her arm. Hazel hugged Pippin tightly, sleepless all night. The next day, the assistant sent a message arranging Hazel's paternity test. "Mrs. Sterling's hands shook as she held the test report, and she pulled Hazel into her arms. "My precious daughter, you must have suffered so much these years. Tell Mom, how did you get through it all?" Hazel calmly recounted her experiences, and Mrs. Sterling was already heartbroken. "Good child, when you return to the Sterling family, we will definitely make it up to you. Whatever you want, just ask. Mom and Dad agree to everything. I want Victoria to give up her spot for studying abroad, and I want her to move out of the Sterling house." Hazel stared at the reflection on the table, her voice carrying a chilling resolve. Behind his glasses, Chairman Sterling's gaze darkened slightly, but softened when he saw his daughter's red-rimmed eyes. "All right, we'll do as you say. By the way, that boy who has been by your side, how is he? You like him so much, do you want to bring him along?" Mrs. Sterling didn't finish before Hazel interrupted. "No need, I don't like him anymore." Her heart ached again as she murmured, "I'll never like him again." Hazel agreed with her parents to keep the recognition secret for now and announce it in a month. She had been played by Lucien and Victoria for so long. Naturally, she couldn't just leave like this. She wanted to see exactly what kind of show they would prepare for her in a month. 3 days later at dusk, Hazel lied about going fishing and circled to the low wall in the backyard, seeing a luxury car parked at the small courtyard entrance. Before entering, she heard faint arguing from the backyard. "Why are you so impulsive? Didn't I say not to come? What if someone sees?" "Luce, I miss you so much. I can't wait a single second longer. Everyone in the Sterling family is looking for the real heiress. I'm so afraid of being abandoned." Victoria's voice trembled, silenced mid-sentence by Lucien's kiss. "Don't worry, I'll find a way. Everything the Sterlings have will eventually be yours." Lucien's voice was as calm as if dipped in ice water, bordering on cruel. "How can I not worry? Why do I have to wait another month?" Victoria's nails dug into the back of his neck. "I don't want you to be with Hazel anymore. I hate her. I promise you, once I dispose of Hazel, I'll reveal my identity and marry you." The man's kisses fell fast and hard, pressing Victoria against the swing ropes, the metal chains creaking under the strain. Hazel hid in the shadows of the coral reef, her nails digging deep into her palms. She saw the look Lucien gave Victoria. It was a burning heat she had never seen before. It turned out that love and indifference were so distinct. Deep affection could truly be faked. Victoria suddenly opened her eyes and met Hazel's gaze in the corner. Her red lips curled up, and she hooked her arms around Lucien's neck to deepen the kiss. Hazel turned abruptly, her back hitting the rough reef rock. The salty sea breeze poured into her throat. She bit her lower lip to stop a whimper from escaping. Clearly, the two of them should be the ones fleeing in shame, but now she had become the one who couldn't face the light. When the sound of the luxury car's engine started, Lucien was already sitting back in his wheelchair, his white shirt buttoned properly, as if the person pressing Victoria down and panting just moments ago wasn't him. As Hazel walked over, a trace of unnaturalness flashed across his face, disappearing quickly. "Hayes, you're back so early today. Did you catch anything?" Hazel stared at the bruise on the corner of his mouth, then glanced at the broken rope of the swing, asking expressionlessly, "How did the swing break? And what happened to your mouth?" "The wind blew it over. I accidentally bumped it when I tried to prop it up." Lucien lied without blinking, pulling her into his arms and making her sit on his lap. "Hayes, I haven't seen you all day. I missed you so much. Will you help me apply some medicine later?" His tone was sickeningly sweet, but Hazel only felt chilled to the bone. Her heart was like a candle burning out, with only the last flicker of light remaining. "Okay." She cooperated by rubbing his hair, her expression utterly numb. Just then, Lucien's attending physician called, asking him to come for a checkup. Every month for checkups, Lucien would stay at the city hospital for a week. Hazel used to believe this implicitly. Thinking back now, during that week, while she worked hard fishing to pay off debts, he was probably keeping Victoria company. According to custom, before leaving, Lucien struggled to lower his body to kiss her goodbye. This time, she had no reaction, only urging the caregiver to push him away. Lucien sensed her strangeness. Even as the car started, he kept staring at her figure. "Sir, do you have something to say to Miss Harper? Should we stop the car?" The caregiver's words pulled Lucien's thoughts back. "No need," he said coldly. As the car drove off the fishing island, Lucien finally left behind the annoying smell of the sea and lit a cigarette. Hazel's thin figure lingered in his mind, making him inexplicably irritable. Why did he care about Hazel's state? Why did he even feel a twinge of sympathy for her? He must be too tired. Lucien rubbed his temples, telling himself that Hazel was the culprit who hurt Victoria, so there was no need for guilt. Once the Sterlings gave up looking for the real heiress and took Victoria abroad, he wouldn't have to act with the fisherwoman anymore. Her life or death had nothing to do with him. After sending Lucien away, Hazel began packing her luggage, busy until late at night. Suddenly, her phone chimed. Victoria had sent a video call invitation. The moment she clicked it, Hazel's heart plummeted. Through the secretive camera angle, Victoria lay on a large hotel bed, her bathrobe open, hugging Lucien while playing with a shell bracelet. Victoria lay on the soft hotel bed, bathrobe wide open. She hugged the man panting heavily on top of her, toying with a shell bracelet. That was the bracelet Hazel had made to alleviate the pain of Lucien's paralysis. She had braved the scorching sun, picking up 999 shells on the beach and selecting the 9 most beautiful ones to string together. When he received this gift, Lucien was moved to tears, swearing to cherish it. Now it was on another woman's wrist. Victoria laughed scornfully. "Luce, Hazel gave this to you. Giving it to me like this, aren't you afraid she'll be heartbroken?" Lucien threw the bracelet onto the floor, and the shells shattered instantly. He impatiently sped up his movements, saying indifferently, "Who would want such cheap trash? If you like it, I'll give you something better and more expensive." The next second, the camera fell over, the screen going black, leaving only the sounds of a man and woman panting. Listening to those sounds, Hazel's heart felt like it was being cut by a knife. Her heart, like those shells, shattered into debris. That day, when she returned to the fishing hut from the hotel, Hazel had sworn in her heart never to shed another tear for Lucien. But at this moment, her tears were like a broken faucet. No matter how much she wiped, she couldn't stop them. She stood up unsteadily, took the things she had organized to the beach, lit a bonfire, and burned them one by one. First was the safety amulet she had climbed 1080 steps in the rain to pray for on Lucien's behalf, then the dream catcher she wove for him. She had even kept the scrap paper he used to explain problems in high school until now. After burning a box of things, Hazel realized that most were gifts she had given him. The gifts he had given her could be counted on one hand, but she had once thought that having Lucien's heart was enough. In the end, even that heart was fake. Hazel laughed self-deprecatingly. Amidst the dancing flames, memories turned to ash and drifted away with the wind. Her last shred of affection for him burned out along with them. Suddenly, Victoria sent another photo. On a neck covered in hickeys, a diamond necklace shone dazzlingly. "I casually mentioned I liked it yesterday, and Luce had it flown in from abroad. Seeing how pitiful you are, I'll tell you the truth. The person Luce loves is me. All these years in front of you, he was just acting. Hazel Harper, if you know what's good for you, get away from Luce early. Maybe then I'll consider letting you off the hook." Hazel ignored her provocation. She was indeed leaving. Only Victoria didn't know yet that the place Hazel was leaving for was the Sterling home. When the time came, it wasn't certain who would be the one leaving. The next day, accompanied secretly by the assistant, Hazel completed the procedures for going abroad. She could leave at any time. Although the Sterling couple was eager to reunite with their daughter, they chose to respect her choice and didn't rush her. After saying goodbye to her parents, Hazel went to her part-time job at the pizza shop. Just as she arrived, she received a large order specifically requesting her for delivery. Halfway there, the customer canceled the order citing a wrong address. Not long after, they claimed to have ordered the wrong flavor and canceled again. After this happened repeatedly, Hazel, who had left at noon, didn't deliver the pizza until nightfall, her uniform soaked in sweat. The delivery address was a resort clubhouse halfway up the mountain. It was said to have cost hundreds of millions and was one of the most luxurious clubs in the world. She had previously investigated. The shareholder proxy for several top domestic clubs was Lucien, including hotels, real estate, and the loan shark company that lent to her adoptive father. So when Victoria came out to pick up the meal, Hazel wasn't surprised. Victoria wore a gorgeous gown and a crystal tiara. One glance revealed she was the star of this banquet. "Oh my, it's you. I didn't expect you to end up like this." She feigned surprise, a fake smile plastered on her face. "Luce cleared out the clubhouse specifically for me, losing hundreds of thousands in business just to celebrate my birthday. You must have never been here, right? Isn't it beautiful?" Victoria rambled on, but Hazel stared at the musical fountain not far away, lost in thought. Victoria's birthday, was it her real birthday too? It turned out a birthday could be so lively, so luxurious. In her memory, Lucien never seemed to have celebrated a proper birthday with her. A bitter taste rose in her mouth. She turned to leave, but Victoria grabbed her and dragged her away. By the pool, Victoria stopped and switched to a sharp, mean expression. Hazel Harper, are you dead inside? I was kind enough to tell you the truth. How do you have no reaction at all? What reaction should I have? Hazel chuckled lightly. It wasn't that she had no reaction, she had just completely given up. Victoria was enraged by her attitude, hooking her red lips. One more thing. Back then at the seaside, I lied to Luce. He thinks I was the one who saved him. You can't get Luce's heart at all, so why pretend to be high and mighty? Hazel frowned in confusion. The drowning boy she saved when she was little was actually Lucien. Before she could ask further, Victoria suddenly took a step back, leaned back, and fell into the pool. Hazel's eyes widened. She tried to grab her wrist, but Victoria screamed. Ow, Hazel, why won't you let me go? Will you only be satisfied if my hand is broken? Please, I'm really scared I won't compete with you for the piano championship anymore. I'll give you all my trophies. Just don't hurt me anymore, okay? The commotion attracted a crowd, and several security guards rushed over to drag Hazel away. She looked up toward the upper floor, where a black silhouette was surrounded like a star. Although she couldn't see his face clearly, she knew it was Lucien. Hazel didn't defend herself. Rage surged from the bottom of her heart. Taking advantage of the guard's distraction, she snatched a wine glass from a tray and poured it over Victoria's head. Victoria hadn't expected her to fight back. Just as she was about to scream, Hazel grabbed her hair and dunked her into the water. Seeing her screaming, Hazel felt physically and mentally relieved. She stole her identity as the sterling heiress, enjoyed endless wealth and glory, yet still tripped her up at every turn, trapping her on the fishing island and wasting 5 years of her prime. Thinking of this, she grabbed a few more bottles of wine and smashed them forcefully near Victoria's ears. Victoria screamed and cried in terror. Victoria, happy birthday. I hope you enjoy tonight, Hazel sneered into her ear. After all, by her next birthday, she would no longer be the glorious Sterling daughter. After the incident, the pizza shop received a complaint. Hazel was fired and half her salary was confiscated, but she wasn't sad at all. She turned around and set up a fish stall at the market. Unexpectedly, not long after opening, several burly men rushed in to smash the stall. When Hazel tried to stop them, she was thrown onto a snack cart, her arm badly burned by hot oil. The surrounding vendors dared not speak out, and no one dared to help. When the city management officers finally arrived, they let the men go and instead took Hazel away on the grounds that her permits didn't meet requirements. After paying the fine and returning home, Hazel's vision went dark. The yard was trashed. Not far away, the fishing boat she used for her livelihood was engulfed in raging flames, burned down to a charred frame. Even more hateful was that the fish fry she painstakingly fed every day had been blown to bits, countless pieces of fish flesh floating on the sea surface. This sea area and these boats were the legacy left by her adoptive parents. Destroyed in an instant, it cut Hazel's heart like a knife. She frantically tried to put out the fire, but several people suddenly rushed out from the corner and dragged her into the house. Pippin barked and bit anxiously, only to be kicked flying, rolling on the ground in pain. What are you doing? This is illegal. I can call the police anytime. Hazel feigned calm, receiving only lecherous smiles and tearing of clothes in return. She struggled desperately, took a heavy punch, and gradually lost consciousness. She didn't know how long passed before the person on top of her left. Between dreams and waking, conversation from outside drifted in with the wind. Big L only told you to teach her a lesson. Who told you to touch her? B-boss, didn't Big L say this woman was at our disposal? The brothers haven't had fresh meat in a long time. We just got carried away. Luckily, I came in time and didn't let you animals succeed. Now get lost, hearing the name Lucien. Hazel's blood froze, and tears of despair flowed from the corners of her eyes. Just because she poured wine on Victoria, he had to go to these lengths to punish her. Hazel fainted again. When she opened her eyes, she was lying in bed, her wounds bandaged. Hayes, are you okay? Lucien by the bed stood up excitedly, only to fall back into his wheelchair the next second. Hazel turned her head sluggishly, her gaze moving from his anxious face to his legs, finding it utterly ironic. Are you concerned about me? She tried her best to calm down, but her voice couldn't help trembling. Are you scared, confused? Why are you talking nonsense? Lucien gently stroked her hair. Don't be afraid, the people have been caught. Blame me for being a cripple, unable to come save you in time. With that, he hugged Hazel guiltily, as if trying to merge her into his own body. Hazel pushed him away and said distractedly, "Lucien, do you love me?" "Of course," he answered without hesitation. "Hayes, no one in this world loves you more than I do." "Then swear it. Swear you will never lie to me in this life, nor betray me." Lucien paused for a moment, then nodded firmly. "I swear, in this life, I only love Hazel Harper. I will never betray her. Otherwise, may I go to hell and never be redeemed." Hazel gazed into his eyes, trying to find a trace of regret or guilt, but saw only hypocrisy. Her heart filled with bitterness again. Lucien's acting was truly excellent, but this time, she wouldn't fall for it again. "Lucien, you failed my true heart. I will make you regret this. May your oath come true. May you face retribution soon and be damned beyond redemption." After the medicine was applied, Hazel fell into a deep sleep. Lucien left through a secret passage. Once in the car, his gentle, refined face instantly turned dark. The car drove into an abandoned warehouse where several men were kneeling in a row, sacks over their heads. He turned his head slightly, and a subordinate lit a cigarette for him. He took a deep drag, threw it on the ground, and crushed it out. Then, he took an iron rod handed to him by someone else and walked forward step by step. The sound of the iron rod scraping against the ground was oppressive. The men were shaking all over. Some even wet their pants. Big L, we know we were wrong. We really didn't know that was your woman otherwise." A dull thud interrupted the begging as the iron rod smashed ruthlessly onto the man's knee. Lucien felt like he heard a joke. How could Hazel be his woman? She had humiliated Victoria like that. He couldn't hate her enough. So, he ordered his men to trash her home to give her a warning. Usually, he wouldn't ask about the results of such trivial matters. But why, after learning that Hazel was almost raped, was he so furious? Lucien couldn't figure it out. He became increasingly irritable, swinging the rod with more force. Half an hour later, only wails remained on the ground. "I never show mercy to those who act on their own." He sneered while wiping his hands, then left without looking back. The subordinates behind looked at each other in dismay, no one daring to make a sound. They exchanged confused glances. Didn't the boss hate Hazel the most? Why did he suddenly fly into such a rage? After recuperating in the hospital for a few days, Hazel returned to the fishing island with Lucien. Just as they entered, Lucien noticed the room was much emptier, and his chest tightened inexplicably. "Hayes, where are the things you gave me?" "Burned clean in that fire a few days ago," Hazel said lightly, acting as if it didn't concern her. Only then did Lucien realize that she had been unusually cold to him these past few days. That day when he came back from the warehouse, he accidentally cut his hand, but Hazel didn't ask anything when she saw it. And that shattered bracelet, Hazel refused to let him fix it, throwing it directly into the trash. Was it an illusion? He suspected she knew something, so he sent subordinates to investigate, but found nothing unusual. "It's just a game," he told himself, a relieved smile rising on his lips. Once he went abroad, this fisherwoman should disappear from his life. In the evening, Hazel took Pippin and prepared to go out to sea. Unexpectedly, just a short distance away, Victoria suddenly blocked her path with a group of people. "I heard there are ghost jellyfish in the deep sea area. Take me to catch them, okay?" Victoria sat cross-legged on the bow, smiling triumphantly. Hazel looked at her coldly. "There are sharks there. If you want to die, you can go yourself." Cut the crap, saying so, Victoria pulled out a lighter, gesturing to start a fire. "If you don't take me, I'll burn all your stuff." "You dare?" Hazel's eyes widened in anxiety. These things were borrowed temporarily from other fishermen and had to be returned. Forced into a corner, she had to grit her teeth and agree. "I promise you. But let's be clear in advance, I'm not responsible if anything happens." Hazel thought Victoria would retreat quickly, but she kept holding up her phone to take pictures, showing no fear. Further ahead lay the dangerous waters that old fishermen turned pale talking about. Hazel dared not advance rashly. Just as she was preparing to turn around, the boat suddenly began to rock violently. The wind picked up on the sea, the waves growing larger, threatening to capsize the boat at any moment. By the light of a flashlight, Hazel looked into the water, her breath stopping instantly. A shark fin was circling their boat just then, a huge wave hit. As the fishing boat capsized, Victoria screamed and pushed Hazel and Pippin out. Almost instantly, the shark opened its bloody maw, its sharp teeth quickly piercing Pippin's body. Blood gradually stained the sea red. Hazel stared at the scene in disbelief, then let out a wretched wail. No. Hazel's throat choked on seawater, watching helplessly as Pippin stopped struggling. The force of the shark thrashing its tail created a vortex, and she was swept closer and closer to that small corpse. Only when the shark approached again did she wake from her trance, waving her arms and swimming desperately back. When she turned, she saw Lucian jumping into the sea. He held Victoria without hesitation, comforting her as he lifted her onto the lifeboat. Then he left without looking back, as if Hazel didn't exist. Hazel stood frozen in place like a deflated balloon. Something cool flicked onto her face. Salty, not seawater, but her own tears. Severe, piercing pain radiated from her legs. Even as the shark dragged her away, she was still staring at the receding lifeboat. Then she lost consciousness. In the darkness, the shark bared its sharp fangs as if to tear a person to shreds. Hazel snapped her eyes open. A white ceiling came into view, the room filled with the pungent smell of disinfectant. Pain made her break out in a cold sweat all over. She glanced at her bandaged arms and legs and breathed a sigh of relief. Thankfully, no missing limbs. She had kept her life. Just then, several nurses passed by the door, excitement hard to hide in their voices. "Did you see? That couple in the VIP room is so good-looking. It's just a pity about that Mr. Lancaster. Talented and handsome, yet paralyzed from the waist down at such a young age. I heard he just personally saved his girlfriend from a shark's mouth. What a fairy tale love brave men like that are rare in this world. Wait until they walked away." Hazel got out of bed with crutches and struggled out of the ward. Separated by a wall, Victoria's coquettish voice drifted from the VIP room. Hazel approached. Through the crack in the door, the scene inside made her face turn pale. Lucian was sitting by Victoria's bed peeling a pomelo, feeding it to her piece by piece, his eyes overflowing with doting affection. "Luce, aren't you going back to check on Hazel? What if she wakes up and spills the beans?" "It's fine." Hearing Hazel's name, Lucian's expression turned cold. "I had someone add sleeping pills to her IV. She won't wake up for a while." Hazel gripped the doorknob tight and pushed the door open. Seeing Hazel, the pomelo in Lucian's hand dropped to the floor, but he quickly adjusted his expression, looking composed. "Haze, you're awake?" She forced a stiff smile and asked, "Lucian, don't you plan to explain?" "What is there to explain? You've already seen the truth." Victoria scoffed disdainfully. Hazel looked at the culprit, anger surging through her body, making her almost unstable. "You killed Pippin and tried to kill me. Where do you get the nerve to speak here?" A look of ruthlessness flashed across Victoria's face, but she quickly switched to a pitiful appearance, her eyes rimmed red. "Hazel, did you misunderstand me? I was just too scared at the time and accidentally pushed you. I'll apologize to you, okay?" Hazel tightened her jaw, watching her performance without making a sound. Suddenly, Victoria picked up the fruit knife from the bedside table and aimed it at her own neck. "It's my fault. I shouldn't have caused your dog's death. Then a life for a life, is that enough?" After speaking, she closed her eyes, pretending to stab down. "Enough!" Lucian waved his hand, knocking the fruit knife flying. The knife smashed onto Hazel's leg. "Hazel, you know the sea best. Why did you take Victoria to the deep sea area? What if someone died?" "What do you mean?" Hazel spoke dully, the light in her eyes gradually dimming. "Victoria threatened me to go. I didn't force her. If she hadn't deliberately pushed us, Pippin wouldn't have died. It's just a dog. Is it worth being so hysterical?" Lucian was irritable and impatient. "I didn't expect you to be such a narrow-minded person." Hazel's pale lips trembled, tears swirling in her eyes. Pippin was the dog they raised together, her family, her emotional support when she was sad. Yet in Lucian's eyes, its life was worthless. Hazel spoke no more, turning and limping out of the ward. Lucian watched her thin back, feeling suddenly uneasy. Just as he was about to follow and call her back, he heard Victoria rubbing her wrist and crying out in pain. He hurriedly rang the bell for the nurse, casting Hazel to the back of his mind. Hazel lay in the hospital for a week until her injuries were mostly healed. The Sterling couple, learning their daughter had narrowly escaped death, wanted to visit multiple times but were dissuaded by her. After reassuring her parents, she made a request, Dad, Mom, hire a few people to pick me up and take me to the airport in a few days. Just then, Lucian's voice came from the doorway. What airport? Who are you calling? A customer wants to buy fish. We're discussing the cost of air freight. Hazel made up a random excuse to cover it up. Lucian believed it and didn't ask further. He handed her a ticket. I won a cruise ship day trip in a lottery. Do you want to go together to clear your mind? Consider it an apology for losing my temper at you that day. He wore a gentle smile, causing Hazel a moment of trance. Which face was the real him? She knew it was a trap, yet she pretended to be happy and agreed. On the day of boarding, Hazel deliberately put on a beautiful dress. The luxury of the cruise ship exceeded imagination. The guests behaved elegantly, but she knew clearly that these might all be actors hired by Lucian. She even thought somewhat ironically, with so many people acting for her, could she count as the leading lady of this banquet? Halfway through the cruise, Lucian wheeled himself to the restroom. Hazel pretended to agree but secretly followed him. She saw Lucian enter a suite around the corner. Soon, voices came from inside. Boss, everything is ready. The ship will capsize in 10 minutes. The lifeguards are all arranged too. Good, remember to control the degree. Don't hurt her. Lucian's tone was hesitant. A few brothers joked, Big L, you haven't actually fallen for that fish-selling girl, have you? It's not too late to regret it now. Lucian raised his voice. I'm just acting and playing with her. Want me to fall for her? Impossible in this lifetime. Hazel felt like her heart was being squeezed tight. She covered her mouth firmly, tears falling silently. When Lucian came out, he immediately saw Hazel standing by the railing. The wind blew her long hair, making her look so beautiful that he was stunned, involuntarily raising his camera. Just as he prepared to go up and speak to her, the ship suddenly made a loud noise and began to list. People scattered and screamed. Hazel was pushed off the railing by the immense impact, hanging precariously by one hand. Until she fell into the sea, her expression was calm enough to induce panic. Meeting Lucian's panicked eyes, Hazel smiled. That smile held both resignation and despair. She allowed herself to sink into the sea, past memories flashing before her eyes like a revolving lantern. Lucian, I once really, truly loved you. Until just moments ago, she still naively held a sliver of hope for Lucian, hoping he would confess everything. Perhaps then, she could convince herself to forgive this man she had loved for 5 years. But she understood completely now. She was a fool blinded by love. If she could do it over, she never wanted to meet Lucian in this life. Lifeguards appeared in time, rescuing those who had fallen into the water one by one, but Hazel was the only one missing. They didn't know that Hazel, born a fisherwoman, was an excellent swimmer. At that moment, she had secretly swum to another shore and was picked up by the Sterling family's car. She changed her clothes and threw her phone and SIM card into the sea. As the car drove toward the airport, the dark clouds dispersed and sunlight paved the road ahead. From today on, the fisherwoman Hazel Harper was dead. She was the Sterling heiress, Hazel Sterling. Hazel looked into the distance, never looking back. When the ship hit the reef and capsized, Lucian was secretly transferred away by his subordinates. He only saw Hazel fall into the water but didn't see her being picked up by the Sterling family's boat. However, that didn't matter to him anymore. He only cared whether his plan succeeded. Lucian returned to his villa, collapsing onto the sofa as if relieved of a heavy burden. The first thing he did was order the butler, "Notify everyone, I'm resting for the next 2 days. No matter what happens, do not disturb me." The next day, Lucian inspected all the properties under his name. His daily entertainment schedule was packed full horseback riding, shooting, golfing. Yet he couldn't find the old feeling. His nerves remained highly strung. Lying on a 6-figure mattress at night was unexpectedly harder to sleep on than the hard plank bed on the fishing island. The moon outside the window was missing a corner. The wind carried no familiar salty smell, and even the air held a strange scent. Lucian tossed and turned, thinking he had probably stayed on the fishing island too long and was having trouble adapting to his new life, hence the discomfort. He got up decisively, picked a bottle of wine from the cabinet, and tried to rely on alcohol to sleep. Just then, the butler's internal line rang. "Young master, Miss Victoria is looking for you." Lucian frowned and interrupted. "Turn her away from me. Didn't I say not to disturb me? No one is allowed." Hanging up, he drank the wine in his glass in one gulp. After a few glasses, drowsiness began to hit. But the phone rang again, as if intentionally opposing him. Filled with rage, his voice was so cold it made the butler shiver. "I'll say it again, turn it away. Young master, it's not Miss Victoria this time, it's Hazel. Hazel Harper's matters do not need to be reported to me. Handle it yourselves." Lucien lost all patience and slammed the receiver back down. Over the next few days, the phone was indeed much quieter. Lucien was in a rare good mood and called a few brothers to play pool. Amidst the chatter and laughter, someone unknowingly steered the topic back to Hazel. "Big L, so many days have passed, and there's not a peep from the fish-selling girl? I miss the days pretending to be loan sharks. Suddenly being idle feels kind of weird." Lucien leaned over to strike the ball, his movements elegant, eyes only on the black 8 on the table. With a bang, a triumphant smugness floated onto his face, and only then did he have time to answer the previous question. "I changed all my contact information. She can't find me at all." "True." The others let out contemptuous laughs. "So what if she finds you? The fish girl has no one to rely on, reeks of poverty. Now she can't even reach the threshold to see Big L. She loved Big L so much. Finding out he's missing, she must be crying miserably now. Say, if she can't find him for a long time, will she go completely crazy?" The laughter was piercing. Lucien paused with the cue stick, the smile in his eyes gradually solidifying. He suddenly felt this group of people was very noisy and slammed the cue stick onto the table. "That woman has nothing to do with me anymore. Don't mention her in front of me in the future." A woman smelling of fish, a broken island, white tank tops that never washed clean, those were stains on his life that must be completely wiped away. In the hallway, the butler was pacing anxiously while on the phone. How can she not be found? With so many eyes, not a single person discovered Miss Harper's whereabouts. A grown person can't just vanish into thin air. Expand the search range, keep looking for me. Lucien's heart sank violently. An ominous premonition gripped his heart. He feigned calm, but his voice tightened uncontrollably. "What happened to Hazel?" Under Lucien's oppressive presence, the butler nervously wiped sweat from his forehead. "Young master, our people didn't save Miss Harper that day. We've searched for days with no trace. I suspect she might have." "Shut up," Lucien punched the wall, blood beading on his knuckles. "Didn't you say it was foolproof? Why tell me something this big only now?" The butler took a deep breath, answering with the resolve of facing death. "Young master, it was you who ordered that no matter what happened, we were not to disturb you." Lucien was speechless. He immediately sent people to the scene to search. The cold wind bit into his bones. He stood on the reef for half an hour, his thoughts a tangled mess. The image of Hazel leaning against the railing the night the boat capsized suddenly became clearer and clearer. Her hair was no longer a messy ponytail. It gleamed like satin in the moonlight. The wind blew her skirt into a gentle arc, making him unwittingly press the shutter. He remembered the day Hazel was attacked by the shark. The scene was chaotic. He had only seen Victoria then, completely failing to notice Hazel, who was nearly submerged by seawater. Until someone shouted that there seemed to be another person behind. Lucien turned to see Hazel being dragged away by the shark, bobbing in the waves. His heart suddenly skipped a beat, nearly dropping Victoria from his arms. Victoria hugged him tightly, crying and shouting about pain, while on the other side, Hazel was on the brink of life and death. Lucien clenched his fists, watching the rescue personnel dive into the sea. Only when he saw Hazel dragged onto the lifeboat did he leave with peace of mind. Later in the ward, he spoke harsh words to Hazel. In fact, as soon as the words left his mouth, he regretted it. At that time, Hazel's sorrowful expression was something he couldn't forget even now. He subconsciously wanted to explain, but his pride wouldn't allow it. Besides, given their relationship, there was no need for him to explain anything extra. "This accident started because of me, so it's just guilt," Lucien told himself over and over. Having thought it through, he immediately ordered his subordinates to increase the search efforts, ensuring surrounding villages weren't missed either. Suddenly, Victoria called, her voice carrying the sound of weeping. "Luce, Mom and Dad won't let me go abroad with them. I'm so scared. Are they discarding me?" Her voice was sweet, and her crying evoked pity, making Lucien unconsciously soften his tone. Don't worry, you are the pearl of the Sterling family. They won't discard you. Luce, I'm so worried I can't sleep every day. The only person I trust is you. Let's get married, okay? Her sudden proposal stunned Lucien. Didn't he approach Hazel for revenge just for Victoria's sake? But why did he hesitate hearing her propose marriage? Luce, are you listening? Victoria called out again. After a long while, Lucien gripped the phone and answered. Okay. Victoria couldn't wait a moment longer, clamoring for an engagement the very next day. For a sense of ceremony, Lucien set the engagement location at the beach where they first met. At 12 years old, he accidentally drowned, and it was Victoria who risked danger to save him. From then on, he made a vow to protect this kind girl for a lifetime. Victoria, however, refused to go out, complaining about the sun. So Lucien went for a walk on the beach alone to clear his mind. Passing a supermarket on the beach, his eyes were immediately drawn to a Damascus pocket knife hanging on the wall. The knife's pattern and color were beautiful. Coincidentally, this knife only had the blade left, and he happened to have a matching sheath at home. If he remembered correctly, that sheath was something he accidentally pulled off Victoria when he drowned. Seeing Lucien staring at the knife, the shopkeeper asked cheerfully, "Young man, like this knife?" Declaring in advance, "I'm not selling." Such an exquisite knife, I begged it from a girl. If the sheath hadn't been lost, she wouldn't have wanted to give it to me at all. Lucien subconsciously replied, "The girl you speak of, perhaps I know her too. We are getting married soon." The shopkeeper scratched his head, looking confused. "Married? I haven't heard she has a fiancé." Saying that, the shopkeeper took out a photo from the drawer for Lucien to see. "Are we talking about the same person? This girl is amazing at fishing, dark and thin, with a stubborn personality. Doesn't feel like she matches your vibe." Lucien looked over, his smile freezing on his lips. The person in the photo was actually Hazel Harper. Lucien snatched the photo, examining it repeatedly and carefully, not missing a single corner. Only when his eyes blurred did he allow himself to believe he hadn't seen wrong. But the world was full of coincidences. It was plausible that Hazel had the same knife. What if she stole it from Victoria? Lucien felt he was overreacting, so he asked tentatively, "Such a beautiful knife, why is it bare? Where did the sheath go?" After speaking, he waited nervously for the shopkeeper's answer. "Oh, that. The little girl said she saved someone before, and when she came back, she found the sheath missing. This girl is quite pitiful too. Both parents dead, raising a paralyzed man by her side. Her eyes were swollen from crying when she sold me the knife, saying she had no money to buy medicine for the man, asking me to offer a higher price. Last time she came to see me, her eyes were still swollen. Don't know if that man broke her heart. If you ask me, keeping that kind of man only drags you down. She should just dump that burden and let him fend for himself." The shopkeeper got carried away, lost in memory. Lucien couldn't hear a word he was saying, his mind full of the extracted keywords. Same place. Hazel saved someone here too. The person she saved. Could it be him? He felt like he'd been hit over the head with a club. His ears began to ring, and breathing became difficult. Listening any longer, he felt he would suffocate the next second, so he fled out of there. The sun on the island was fierce, yet Lucien couldn't stop shivering from the cold. Thinking back to the scene of his rescue, he had been too weak to see the person's face clearly. Regaining consciousness, Victoria's face was before him. He naturally took her as his savior, and she didn't deny it. Thinking carefully, Lucien realized there were indeed many suspicious points. For instance, Victoria always deliberately avoided the topic. For instance, whenever he asked about the details of his rescue, Victoria would hem and haw, finally brushing it off with coquetry. Could it be? She had been lying to him all along? Amidst his thoughts, Victoria called, urging Lucien to return quickly. In the evening, Victoria dragged Lucien to the seaside market, wanting to buy everything she saw. For the first time, Lucien found the woman's chattering voice annoying. Hazel was different. She had a quiet personality and always spoke softly. Passing a handicraft stall, Victoria stopped, put on a woven hat, and spun around. "Luce, do I look good?" Her bright makeup, carefully curled hair, and flamboyant red bohemian dress all entranced Lucien. His first reaction was, if Hazel dressed like this, she would surely be beautiful too. Usually, that woman was always dusty-faced, wearing only an old t-shirt, patching it up rather than buying a new one. Yet such a frugal woman was willing to buy him new clothes every season. And how did he treat her? Enjoying her sacrifices while mocking her lack of class behind her back with his friends. But wasn't the person who made her like that him? Not getting Lucian's answer, Victoria pouted, shaking his arm vigorously. Why aren't you talking? You aren't mesmerized by me, are you? Lucian shook her off, his eyes cold. Victoria, do you remember the pocket knife I gave you after you saved me from drowning? The sheath was left at my house. Remember to come get it next time. A trace of unnaturalness flashed across Victoria's face. She adjusted her hair and responded perfunctorily. Okay. Why didn't you say so earlier? I almost forgot about it. As soon as her voice fell, Lucian let out a cold laugh. With every laugh, a dull pain radiated in his heart. Sure enough, she was lying. She knew nothing about the knife. He laughed at his own stupidity, to be so easily deceived by this woman for so long. Hazel was his savior, yet he feigned paralysis and tortured her for so many years. Noticing Lucian's expression was off, Victoria went to hug him, only to be suddenly pushed away. Unstable, she fell to the ground, scraping the skin on her arm. Luce, what's wrong with you? It hurts, this time. Her fragility didn't earn Lucian's pity. He tightly gripped the hand she had once injured, his eyes cold as frost, making her shudder. I never gave you a pocket knife. The person who saved me wasn't you. How long do you plan to lie to me? And this hand. Lucian increased his grip, bringing Victoria to tears instantly. Was this hand really injured by Hazel? I'll give you one last chance to explain clearly. Just then, the butler called. Young master, we found Miss Harper. You found Hazel? Lucian interrupted excitedly. No. The butler's voice held regret. We only found her clothes and personal items. Lucian couldn't remember how he rushed to the scene. Along the way, he floored the gas pedal, wanting only to see Hazel sooner. He naively hoped that perhaps when he arrived, Hazel would be found. She was so good at swimming, how could she have an accident? She must still be angry with him about Pippin, deliberately faking a disappearance to scare him. But when he saw the pile of shredded clothing, Lucian's brain went boom, instantly stripping him of the ability to think. Seeing the items but not the person clearly meant Hazel was in grave danger. What exactly had she encountered for her clothes to be stripped off? Lucian dared not think further. With a thud, he knelt on the ground. Keep looking, he ordered with a trembling voice. Even if it's a corpse, bring her back to me intact. The search team got busy again, but everyone knew in their hearts that with so many days gone, the hope of finding someone was vanishingly small. The wind and waves roared, sounding like wails or perhaps accusations against the atrocities Lucian had committed. His eyes bloodshot, he knelt motionless on the spot, silently atoning to the sea. If it could bring Hazel back, he would choose to jump in without hesitation and die in her place. But his regret came too late. Lucian covered his eyes, lying prone on the ground, his other hand angrily smashing the stones beneath him, letting out intermittent sobs of grief. The search team searched for 3 days and 3 nights, and Lucian knelt on the reef for 3 days and 3 nights. He was germophobic and usually fastidious about his image, but now he let himself become filthy, allowing people to stare. Dark circles under his eyes, stubble on his chin, he looked exactly like a homeless man aged 10 years. The butler tried many times to persuade him to go back and rest, to no avail. Occasionally, passers-by would look at Lucian and whisper, Mommy, this uncle has been kneeling here for a long time. Doesn't it hurt? He must really like his girlfriend, right? A little girl asked innocently. The mother quickly hugged her daughter and left, her voice reaching Lucian's ears. Silly girl, liking someone can be faked too. People only remember to cherish when they lose something. When you look for a boyfriend in the future, you must keep your eyes open. Don't be deceived by men's sweet words, Lucian laughed self-deprecatingly. She was right. It was he who didn't know how to cherish, failing Hazel's sincere heart time and again, ultimately harming her. He was willing to spend the rest of his life bearing retribution, but his haze would never return. His vision went black, and he finally couldn't support himself, collapsing. After searching the sea to no avail, Lucian turned the entire city upside down, finally forced to accept the fact of Hazel's death. What broke him even more was a surveillance video sent by the butler. In the video, a woman wearing a delivery uniform ran out of his hotel crying. The person wore a helmet, obscuring her face, but her figure was extremely similar to Hazel's. Young master, the hotel restored the surveillance from a month ago. I felt this delivery worker looked familiar, so I had the front desk check. It was Miss Harper who delivered wine to you that day. Lucien felt like he'd been struck by lightning, his blood running cold. Why was she crying? Had she heard their conversation? No wonder she had been acting strangely during that time. She knew everything. But why didn't she argue or make a scene? Not even a question. Lucien lost all strength, collapsing into his chair in despair. The next day, Lucien found the supermarket owner and bought the pocket knife at a high price. Besides that, he acquired the fishing island where he once lived with Hazel and renamed it Isle of Hazel. Those friends who had schemed to trick Hazel, he retaliated against one by one, then dragged them to the island, demanding they kneel facing the sea for 7 days to atone with him. If souls truly existed after death, Lucien hoped Hazel could see his belated apology. He didn't dare ask for her forgiveness, he just hoped she wouldn't be sad anymore. At night, Lucien returned to the small fishing hut. Smelling the familiar scent, his whole body relaxed. Lying on the cramped bed, he took out the pocket knife, kissing it near his lips like a treasure. And that shell bracelet, because it was shattered beyond recognition, he had a restorer remake it into a necklace, wearing it on his body. These were the only 2 things Hazel left him. He kept them with him at all times, as if she were still by his side. A cool breeze blew. In a trance, Lucien seemed to see Hazel returning from fishing. Smelling of the sea, her eyes shining, she showed him the hermit crab she just caught. Then she glanced at the window and scolded playfully. "Luce, you careless ghost, why didn't you close the window again?" The next second, her warm body squeezed into his arms, wrapping around him like an octopus. "Luce, I sold the fish for a lot of money today. I'll add a chicken leg for you tomorrow. When the debt is paid, I'll take you to the Golden Palace to see the fireworks. I heard it's luxurious there. One night costs 3 months of someone else's wages." She was always like this. Even when tired to death, she insisted on putting up a strong front to make him happy. Memories were like sharp knives. Lucien wanted to pull away from them, but left himself bloody and mangled. Little did he know, Hazel's voice and face were deeply carved into his heart. He had been unwilling to admit that he had long fallen in love with her. When he first transferred schools, seeing Hazel playing the piano on stage, his gaze was deeply attracted. Later, learning she was the target of Victoria's revenge, he rejected the plan. But he couldn't control himself approaching Hazel, so he felt guilty while happily indulging. He was an illegitimate son abandoned by his parents, never experiencing much love growing up. It was Hazel who gave him the warmth of a home. She washed and cooked for him, her heart and eyes full of him. Even though he was paralyzed in a wheelchair, she didn't dislike him a bit, blushing as she confessed to him tirelessly every day. Gradually, Lucien fell in love with life on the island. He had thought countless times about stopping the loss in time and confessing to Hazel. He had done enough revenge and made her pay a painful price. He didn't want her to be hurt anymore. Hazel didn't know her background. Her existence was no threat to Victoria anymore. But Victoria disagreed with ending the plan, even using the identity of his savior to kidnap him morally, making him keep Hazel firmly trapped on the fishing island. Afraid of completely sinking in, Lucien could only humiliate Hazel over and over in front of his friends. He wanted to use this method to numb himself, then continue deceiving her with peace of mind. Amidst endless remorse, Lucien woke up from nightmares countless times, tossing and turning. Meanwhile, Hazel, having arrived in Berlin, couldn't sleep well either. She knew the Sterling family was wealthy, but she didn't expect them to be this rich. Just the distance from the gate to the main house was the size of her fishing island. The inside of the mansion was shockingly large. Leaving her room, she often got lost in the winding corridors and staircases. With their biological daughter regained, Arthur and Alina Sterling prepared a pile of gifts for Hazel, afraid she would suffer even a little grievance. But Hazel was used to poverty since childhood and couldn't accept such an affluent life immediately. She wasn't used to eating delicacies and would only pick at the vegetables. Unable to stay idle, she often subconsciously washed dishes and clothes herself, frightening the servants in the house. Alina saw this but didn't blame Hazel. Seeing her daughter's embarrassment, she solemnly held her hand and comforted her. "Hazel, you are the daughter Mom and Dad found with great difficulty. We just want to make it up to you as best we can. Don't feel too much pressure. This is your home. Do whatever you want. You don't need to consider other people's thoughts." We know you haven't adapted to the new life yet. It's okay, take it slow. Mom and Dad will always be with you." Hazel's nose stung, and she hugged her mother tightly. She dared not imagine that she had actually reunited with her biological parents. Seeing her life now, the spirits of her adoptive parents in heaven would feel relieved too. Thinking of her adoptive parents, Hazel's tears came even more violently. The grace of raising her would never be forgotten. Even though she was now the sterling heiress, she never forgot the kindness of her adoptive parents. She would carry their dying wishes, live well, and pick up her piano dream again. Hazel discussed with her parents to wait a while before announcing her existence to the public. To let her daughter debut brilliantly, Mrs. Sterling planned to hold a piano recital at home next year to celebrate Hazel's birthday. For this, Hazel had to enter systematic practice as soon as possible to return her playing to its former level. Unexpectedly, the teacher her parents took her to see was the piano master Maestro Luca, whom she had admired for a long time. Legend had it that Luca had an eccentric personality and a maverick teaching style. Only those who passed his assessment could become his students. Hazel suppressed her excitement, bowed slightly, and began to introduce herself. "Hello, teacher. My name is Hazel, Hazel Sterling." Under Maestro Luca's serious gaze, Hazel Sterling began her performance. Due to time constraints, she chose the piece Liebestraum Dreams of Love. This piano piece held extraordinary significance for her. It was the piece she won with at the piano competition, and also the one she played when confessing to Lucian. Therefore, even though her technique was a bit rusty, she quickly found the feeling and played through it in one breath. While playing, Hazel reminded herself repeatedly to focus, but that face she didn't want to remember kept appearing before her eyes. Her thoughts drifted back to that early summer evening. In the empty music room, blushing, she nervously played her best piece, Liebestraum. Lucian, eyes smiling, leaned against the piano watching her, his handsome face causing her to hit several wrong notes repeatedly. Later, everything happened naturally. He lifted her onto the piano lid, covered them with his jacket, and kissed her as if no one else existed. A 19-year-old girl, experiencing first love, thought she had met her destiny and was about to possess a love as lingering and passionate as Liebestraum. The memory came to an abrupt halt. Hazel felt coolness on her face. Unknowingly, amidst such a passionate melody, she had played until tears fell. Seeing her tear-streaked face, Luca was also surprised and immediately raised his hand to pause. "Miss Sterling, can you explain? What were you thinking while playing, and why did you suddenly cry?" "I thought of some unhappy memories," Hazel answered truthfully. "There is no eternal love in the world. Beautiful love only exists in human fantasy. It's very likely that in the next instant, that love will rot." Hearing her finish, Luca revealed an incredulous expression. Hazel felt she had messed up and waited quietly for his verdict, but Luca suddenly cheered and applauded. "Miss Sterling, congratulations on passing my assessment. Welcome to my class." Hazel first widened her eyes in disbelief, then intense joy surged in her heart. She suppressed the scream in her throat, wanting to run outside right then and there to calm down. There was an unwritten rule in the piano circle. Any student of Luca had a chance to enter top music conservatories. By accepting Hazel, he was acknowledging her piano talent. Without time to celebrate with her family, Hazel began high-intensity practice with Luca the very next day. Apart from classes, Luca traveled around the world to perform. He occasionally took Hazel with him to train her mindset. Once, there was an issue with Luca's performance outfit, so he had Hazel go up to warm up the crowd and stall for time. Under the scrutinizing and impatient gazes of the audience, Hazel bit the bullet and finished a piece. When she finished and stood up, thunderous applause erupted from below the stage. The audience looked thoroughly engrossed, clearly surprised by this Oriental girl's performance level. After Luca's performance ended and the master and apprentice arrived at the airport, reports about Hazel had spread through the streets. Hazel had requested Luca not to reveal her real name for now, so the whole internet was curious about her true identity. Some reporters even speculated, based on the scars on her hands, that this must be a master with years of performance experience. Seeing this report, Hazel subconsciously hid her hand in her sleeve. These scars weren't from practicing piano, but from being cut by fishhooks while out at sea. Suddenly, Luca, walking ahead, shouted, Hazel snapped back to reality and trotted to catch up. Amidst the bustling crowd, a black figure brushed past Hazel. Lucian's face was gloomy. After his assistant connected the call, he vented his dissatisfaction unceremoniously. "Chester, it's one thing to change bookings frequently, but you actually arranged an economy class for me. Am I the boss or are you?" The young man named Chester had just started the job and was sweating profusely on the other end of the phone. Although he learned about the boss's temper from the butler during training, when the boss really got angry, he didn't even have the courage to speak. He heard that ever since the boss's girlfriend passed away, he had become this suspicious and irritable. "Boss, I'm sorry. The partner in Berlin suddenly notified a change in time. There was only this flight tonight. I couldn't contact you and got anxious." Lucian impatiently hung up the phone. Days of travel left him severely sleep-deprived. While queuing to board, his head began to throb again. Just then, a corner of a fellow traveler's newspaper caught his eye. Lucian glanced at it and then couldn't look away. The photo published in that report, why did it look so much like Hazel Sterling? Lucian snatched the newspaper, his fingers trembling as they brushed over the lines of text. It said she was at this very airport, about to board a flight back to the country. He looked up, scanning the crowd, then ran out of the waiting room without hesitation. The second he left, Hazel and Luca arrived late, pushing their luggage, joining the back of the line. Lucian's heart beat like a drum. He ran through all the terminals but didn't find Hazel. By now, the flight to Berlin had taken off. Learning Lucian hadn't boarded, Chester was nearly crying on the phone. A multi-million-dollar project, and Lucian just abandoned it. To him, finding her was more important. Lucian was wide awake. At every counter, he held up the newspaper and asked the staff if they had seen the woman in the photo. But with such high passenger traffic, the staff couldn't remember every face, giving negative answers. After searching nonstop for 2 hours, Lucian completely lost his strength, his thoughts gradually clearing. He had been too reckless. In his single-minded desire to find Hazel, he had completely lost the ability to think. After calming down, he called Chester, the woman on the headline of today's International Post. "No matter what method you use, find her information for me." After speaking, he tightly gripped the newspaper, staring longingly at that figure. For all this time, his bitter search for Hazel had been fruitless, and he had gradually accepted the fact of her death. But her figure would always appear in his dreams, deeply entangling him. Like a movie suddenly stuck, the scene of her falling from the boat played on a loop in his dreams. Lucian felt he had died in that accident too. The current him was no different from a soulless shell. He lost interest in all hobbies and sold off all the entertainment venues under his name. Just last month, he even contacted a temple, fully prepared to become a monk and repent. But why did fate love to joke so much? Making Hazel appear before him again, Lucian had mixed feelings. He carefully pressed the photo's location close to his chest, afraid the person on it would disappear again the next second. Chester called back quickly. "Boss, I found out. This person is Miss Sterling. I heard she lives with the Sterling family in Berlin. The Sterlings haven't announced her identity to the public." Lucian said impatiently, "Book me a ticket to Berlin, the sooner the better." Hearing she returned to the Sterlings, he breathed a sigh of relief in his heart. Thankfully, she successfully recognized her family and lived a stable life. These riches and honors belonged to her originally. Thinking of meeting Hazel soon, Lucian, who was swift and decisive a second ago, now began to feel nervous. He knew she must hate him to death right now. Whether she hit him or scolded him, he was willing to take it. As long as he could see her once, he missed her so much he was going crazy. On the other side, Hazel's flight landed smoothly in Berlin. After arriving home, Luca shared the reports about her. People were saying all sorts of things. Some even guessed she was Luca's illegitimate daughter. Hazel couldn't help but burst out laughing. After scrolling to the bottom, the app automatically jumped to the next news item. Hazel took one look and instantly lost her mood. It was a report about Lucian Lancaster. The writer called him a rising star in the business world, worth hundreds of millions at a young age. Whatever industry he set his sights on became the new trend of the era. Strangely, in the past few years, no one had dug up a single piece of information about Lucian. His background remained an unsolved mystery. Hazel curled her lip, marveling at Lucian's level of caution. To trick her, he was even willing to sit in a wheelchair, daily playing a paralyzed patient. After so many years, she hadn't discovered a single flaw. He disguised himself so well in front of her. Fooling reporters must be even easier for him. The second half of the news mentioned Lucian's recent business moves. Learning he bought that fishing island and named it after her, Hazel couldn't help but sneer. How had she not noticed he was such a deeply affectionate person? The drinker's heart is not in the cup. He deliberately set up this persona, probably to sell that island at a high price later, right? Hazel's good mood, accumulated over the day, vanished because of this report. Only then did she realize how long she had been looking. She decisively turned off her phone, preparing to lie down and rest. She didn't want to hear any news about him, nor did she want to see him again. Not long after, Hazel's birthday party arrived. This was Hazel's first birthday in the Sterling family. Arthur and Alina Sterling took it very seriously, bringing servants to start decorating before dawn. Just the roses decorating the front door cost hundreds of thousands, all fresh varieties flown in early in the morning. The guests on the invitation list were all prominent figures in society. Hazel felt somewhat overwhelmed. Even though she was already quite familiar with the piece she was to perform, she kept flipping through the sheet music without pause, afraid of making a mistake and embarrassing the Sterling family. Once the guests arrived, Hazel appeared in a gentle long dress under everyone's curious gazes. At first glance, many muttered in their hearts, "The biological one really is different." Anyone who had met Victoria lamented her arrogance and domineering nature. The Sterling couple were extremely well-bred people. How could they raise such a daughter? Victoria hadn't shown her face much lately. Wonder if she was really abandoned by the Sterlings, as the rumors said. When the real and fake heiresses fought, it would be another lively drama. After Hazel took her seat, the melodious piano music began, like a wisp of breeze in the hot summer brushing over the heart, sweeping away the messy thoughts in the guests' minds. Hazel played entranced, seeing only the keys and the staff before her, having long cast the guests below to the back of her mind. Her intoxication infected everyone present. No one dared to make a sound, all holding their breath to admire her performance. Lucian in the crowd was directly stunned. He had tried hard to contact connections to see Hazel once, but couldn't find an opportunity. Using the name of a partner's family member, he managed to enter the Sterling home and attend this banquet. Unexpectedly, as soon as he entered, he saw the scene of Hazel playing the piano. The ugly duckling by the sea had transformed into a white swan, glowing down to her hair strands. No, she was originally a swan who accidentally fell into the mire. Now she had simply returned to where she belonged. Lucian gazed at the person on stage for a long time, as if collecting a treasure, wanting to frame her figure deeply in his eyes. He unconsciously raised his head, adopting a posture of looking up, afraid of accidentally profaning that beautiful swan. When the song ended, amidst thunderous applause, Hazel curtsied. Just as she stepped off the stage, Lucian couldn't wait to follow. Hearing the footsteps behind her, Hazel quickened her pace without turning back. Returning to her room from here required passing through the back garden. Walking along, Hazel simply started jogging, wanting to shake off the person behind. Just now on stage, she had also noticed Lucian. His gaze was too hot, making it hard for her to ignore. So, suppressing the discomfort in her heart, she bit the bullet and finished playing the last piece. She never thought she would meet Lucian again, let alone that he could come to her birthday party. Back then, he deliberately created an accident, preferring to put her in danger just to shake her off. Why was he following her relentlessly now? While Hazel was distracted, Lucian seized the opportunity and grabbed her arm. Let go, Hazel suddenly seemed triggered, ruthlessly throwing off his hand. Meeting her disgusted look, the thousands of words Lucian wanted to say stuck in his throat, leaving him no courage to speak. Before coming, he had prepared himself mentally, but he was still deeply stung by her reaction. "Sorry," Lucian raised his hand with a bitter smile, taking a step back. "Hazel, I was just too excited to see you. What do you want with me? Is there any need for us to be in contact now?" Hazel's tone was impatient, unwilling even to look up at him. Lucian's voice was incredibly dry as he spoke cautiously. "Hazel, that day at the hotel, you knew everything, right? I always thought you had passed away." After you left, I regretted it every day. I shouldn't have lied to play you with my friends, nor should I have helped Victoria hide your identity. I solemnly apologize to you. Can you give me a chance to turn over a new leaf and make up for the mistakes I made?" Hazel listened and laughed, a laugh without a trace of warmth. "Lucien, you played me for a full 5 years. Not 5 days, but 5 years. Watching me spin around like a fool being deceived, weren't you very happy? What right do you have to stand here and talk to me about making amends now?" Lucien was rendered speechless, simply repeating, "I'm sorry." Hazel wiped the corner of her eye quietly. "Forget it. Saying anything now is useless. If you really feel sorry, don't appear in front of me again. I don't want to see you at all." After speaking, Hazel walked away without looking back, without a trace of nostalgia. Lucien stood blankly in place. He felt his heart shatter into countless fragments, and could even hear the sound of them piercing into his flesh. He finally understood how painful it was for Hazel when she learned the truth. This feeling was indescribable. His internal organs felt like they were being torn apart simultaneously. The pain nearly made him faint on the spot. This time, he seemed to have truly lost her. Just then, his phone rang. The caller ID showed a strange number. Pressing answer, Victoria's shrill scream came through. "Lucien Lancaster, how dare you block me? You said you would protect me forever. Why didn't you keep your word?" The next second, she changed her aggressive attitude to quiet sobbing. "Why didn't you tell me Hazel Harper returned to the Sterling family? Everyone is hiding it from me, only I don't know. Mom and Dad only gave me a sum of money and told me to go find my biological mother. But I'm a Sterling too, why drive me away?" Facing her complaints, Lucien only found it noisy and hung up without hesitation. That day at the market, Victoria was frightened by his anger and spilled everything. About how she impersonated his savior, how she framed Hazel for injuring her hand, she told it all. Lucien felt he had been blind. The person he sacrificed so much to protect turned out to be a liar playing with his feelings. He broke with her on the spot, warning her not to look for him again. But Victoria didn't learn her lesson, sticking to him like a plaster again. And judging by her tone just now, something felt off. Lucien suddenly had a bad premonition. Just then, a noise came from a corner of the garden. Before Lucien could see clearly what it was, Victoria rushed out, disheveled, and hugged him tightly. Luce, I'm so scared. Help me drive Hazel away, okay? Didn't you say yourself that you loved me the most?" Lucien darkened his face and pushed her away. "I've said it many times, the person I love is Hazel. If you dare target her again, don't blame me for being ruthless." Victoria seemed not to hear, hugging him again. Coincidentally, Hazel came out after changing clothes and bumped into this scene. Afraid she would misunderstand, Lucien used all his strength to throw Victoria off. But it was too late. Hazel looked very upset. Her gaze swept between the two as she spoke sarcastically. "You two gathered together, what plan are you plotting again? Speak, how do you plan to play me this time?" "Hazel, Lucien wanted to explain, but Victoria suddenly turned and rushed into the banquet hall, smashing things randomly inside. She smashed while crying and shouting. "This is my birthday party. I am the Sterling heiress. She is a fake. Why does everyone side with her? In what way am I inferior to her?" When Hazel entered, Victoria, eyes red, sprinted over and tackled her. She pulled out a dagger from somewhere and aimed to stab Hazel's face. "Hazel Harper, it's all your fault, fighting me for everything. You stole my competition championship and even want to steal my mom and dad. Why didn't you die in that accident?" Mrs. Sterling fainted on the spot, while Mr. Sterling stepped forward carefully, trying to soothe Victoria. "Vicky, listen, put down the knife. Let's talk nicely. Mom and Dad didn't abandon you. It just happened too suddenly. We need time to discuss." Hazel was pinned under Victoria, her face remaining calm, without a trace of panic. She could clearly feel Victoria's hand trembling. She must be scared. In terms of strength, the pampered Victoria naturally couldn't compare to her. She wasn't worried about getting hurt at all. She just wanted to admire Victoria's pathetic state a bit longer. It gave her a thrill of revenge. Victoria looked down, met Hazel's mocking expression, and completely broke down. She raised the dagger high, about to stab down. Hazel was preparing to dodge when suddenly, an arm blocked in front of her, quickly separating the two. Accompanied by the sound of the knife cutting fabric, Lucien's arm bled profusely. Ignoring his own injury, he checked Hazel's safety first. Enough! Lucien could no longer suppress his anger, his icy eyes chilling. I said, if you dare trouble Hazel again, I won't let you off easy. With that, he did something on his phone. Minutes later, videos of Victoria bullying Hazel spread all over the internet, including the day of the competition, where Victoria deliberately cut her own hand backstage. It was all captured clearly. This was evidence Lucien had gathered with great difficulty. He intended to organize it all and hand it to the police before making it public. But he couldn't wait. He was desperate to clear Hazel's name. Lucien bought a batch of internet bots, and the videos fermented quickly. Within half an hour, the views broke 1 million. Those who had misunderstood Hazel turned around to insult Victoria. The police arrived quickly, followed by a plain-dressed woman. She didn't dare look at the Sterling couple, rushing up to grab Victoria, hitting and scolding her. I really sinned giving birth to a daughter like you. Why bully the young miss? Now everyone knows, are you satisfied? This person claiming to be Victoria's mother was presumably the nanny who secretly switched the children back then. Regarding her beating and scolding, Victoria didn't make a sound. As she was taken away by the police, she was still staring resentfully at Hazel. The farce finally ended. Hazel breathed a sigh of relief. Turning around, she saw the carpet soaked in red and remembered Lucien was still injured. Mrs. Sterling, unaware of the past grievances between the two, hurried Hazel to take him for medicine. Hazel glanced at the brightly smiling Lucien, unwilling to embarrass her mother in public, so she obediently complied. In the corridor, one in front and one behind, Hazel felt the back of her head nearly bored through by the person staring behind her. Arriving at the guest room, Hazel handed him over to the servant, gave a few instructions, and prepared to leave first. But Lucien hurriedly called out to her. In his haste, he pulled his wound, grimacing in a loss of composure. Hazel, don't go, I have something to say to you. After applying the medicine, the servant hurriedly closed the door and left, afraid of disturbing their conversation. Hazel felt slightly resistant, but seeing his expression didn't seem fake, and besides, he got hurt saving her. So she stood far away from Lucien and asked stiffly, whatever you want to say it quickly. Lucien didn't know what he wanted to say either. He just wanted her to stay. He used his gaze to trace Hazel's silhouette against the clock, the joy of recovering what was lost surging in his heart again. Hazel grew impatient with his almost obsessive gaze and repeated the question. What exactly do you want to say? If nothing, I'm leaving. Don't go, Lucien frantically searched for words in his mind. He really wanted to tell her he had missed her all along. He spent every day in torment of regret and self-blame, even contemplating suicide to join her. But he couldn't say it. He knew how deeply he had hurt her. If he said all this, she would surely mock him mercilessly. After a long silence, Lucien asked tentatively, Hazel, can I come find you in the future? Don't worry, I absolutely won't disturb you. Even just looking from afar is fine. If possible, he wished he could stay by Hazel's side 24 hours a day to ensure her safety. He was too scared, terrified that the moment he opened his eyes, Hazel would disappear again. No, Hazel rejected categorically. Lucien wasn't surprised by this answer. He was satisfied just speaking a sentence to her. What more could he ask for? After a year of hard work, under Luca's intense training, Hazel successfully tested into the music academy. With the halo of being Luca's student, Hazel attracted many eyes from the start of school. After hearing her play, Hazel's talent spread directly through the whole school. People often ran over from other buildings just to hear this piano prodigy perform with their own ears. For a time, Hazel became a prominent figure. She joined the school orchestra and often performed charity shows outside after class. Whenever she was present, the venue would be packed. Some people even spontaneously organized a fan club for Hazel Sterling. Every performance, she could always see a group of familiar faces cheering for her. Besides them, there was someone below the stage who never missed a single one of her performances. Lucien kept his word. He didn't disturb her, just listening quietly from below. When the performance was about to end, he would get up early to leave. And backstage, there would always be an unsigned bouquet of fresh flowers quietly placed at Hazel's spot. Over time, everyone grew curious about the sender. Hazel, such a romantic suitor, hasn't he moved you? Facing her classmates' gossip, Hazel smiled without speaking. She knew these flowers were all sent by Lucien, but no matter how many flowers he sent, there was no possibility between them. Leaving the orchestra, Hazel mercilessly threw the bouquet into the trash can. Not far away, Lucien in his car saw this scene and withdrew his gaze in disappointment. He comforted himself over and over. It's okay. Silently guarding her like this is good enough. He could accept whatever happened calmly. However, only a day later, Lucien couldn't sit still. Through the grapevine, he learned the Sterlings planned to arrange a marriage for Hazel. Recently, Hazel frequently appeared in tour with Luca, gradually gaining fame. She was at the right age, striking in appearance, and had a respectable family background, making it hard not to catch the eyes of wealthy matrons. Thus, upon returning home, Hazel saw her parents frowning over a pile of invitations. The parents of those young heirs all wanted to find a daughter-in-law of equal social standing for their families, making Hazel a sought-after candidate for a time. Hazel had always been uninterested in such calculated blind dates, but since most of the other parties were on good terms with the Sterlings, for the sake of her parents' face, she had to bite the bullet and accept. Arthur and Alina were open-minded. They didn't want to interfere with their daughter's freedom of marriage, suggesting she just go through the motions. So, apart from practicing piano, Hazel's time was spent attending various banquets and balls. After meeting most of the people who sent invitations, Hazel had no impression other than exhaustion. Some people she even forgot the names and faces of the very next day. Until she met Raphael. Raphael was also a member forced into blind dates for the family business. Upon first meeting, Hazel found they got along very well. He played piano too and liked similar pieces to her. Coincidentally, Hazel learned later that he was actually Luca's nephew. With Luca playing matchmaker, they became friends, sitting down to exchange performance insights whenever they had time. At a cocktail party held at Luca's home, Hazel was arranged to play an opening duet with Raphael. Exclamations came from the crowd occasionally. These two, talented and beautiful, were simply a match made in heaven. Some even boldly guessed that Luca arranged this performance specifically to bring his beloved student and nephew together. Lucien sat in the shadows, his face tight as a sculpture. He swallowed wine glass after glass. The alcohol attacked his nerves like venom. Watching Hazel smile at that man, he was so jealous he almost crushed the glass in his hand. Hazel had heard the outside discussions about herself. She disliked this behavior of casually pairing up single men and women. She only regarded Raphael as a friend and had no other thoughts. To be precise, since experiencing a heart-wrenching deception, she had lost her yearning for love. After the performance ended, Hazel deliberately took a step to the side, putting distance between herself and Raphael. The cocktail party lasted until the latter half of the night. Seeing Hazel wasn't in good condition, Luca asked Raphael to take her back. Hazel had a low tolerance for alcohol, just a few sips made her head dizzy. At the door of her home, Hazel refused Raphael's support and got out of the car unsteadily. Raphael knew she was avoiding suspicion because of those rumors. She didn't know that he indeed harbored selfish motives towards her. Their backgrounds were matched, their hobbies identical. Although she was a few years older than him, age wasn't an issue for him. He had been the visual focus of ladies since childhood, accustomed to being pursued, naturally assuming Hazel had similar thoughts about him. But from their interactions these days, it wasn't hard to see she really only treated him as a friend. Raphael pursued mutual love and didn't want to force anyone. He chose to let go decisively before falling too deep. However, Raphael glanced out of the corner of his eye at the black car not far away, curving his lips somewhat playfully. That man had been following them since they came out. Right now, his eyes looked like they wanted to kill Raphael. Raphael withdrew his gaze, deliberately helped Hazel fix her hair, and then gentlemanly planted a kiss on her forehead. After starting the engine, he honked provocatively and drove away with a trail of triumphant exhaust. Hazel hiccuped from the wine, walking dizzily, completely unaware that danger had quietly approached. A strong hand suddenly grabbed her from behind, pinning her against the wall. Hazel was scared sober instantly. Just as she was about to shout, she met Lucien's shattered gaze. Lucien's chest heaved violently with anger. He lifted her chin with his other hand, gently rubbing those tempting lips. "What should I do with you? What exactly must I do for you to forgive me?" The warmth on her lips transmitted through the skin into his body. An impulse stimulated his nerves from the bottom up. He couldn't help lowering his head, closing his eyes to kiss her. But Hazel firmly blocked her face with her hand and slapped him without explanation. The burning pain made the tide of passion in Lucien recede. After sobering up, he let out a dry, bitter laugh. "Why can others do it, but I can't?" Hazel protected herself with a guarded look, the disgust in her eyes undiminished. "Because I hate you, Lucien. Don't indulge in wishful thinking ever again in this life." Lucien had heard the same words too many times, but hearing them still twisted his heart, like a dull knife scraping bone, sawing all the way to his throat, making even breathing painful. Watching Hazel's resolute back, Lucien slid down the wall like mud. Knowing clearly he wouldn't gain her forgiveness, he still wanted to fly into the flame like a moth, unable to stop wanting to get close to her. He was somewhat disgusted with this version of himself too. After returning from the cocktail party, Hazel didn't see Lucien for several days. With no one buzzing around her, Hazel focused her energy more, shutting herself in the piano room all day to practice. One day, her phone ran out of battery and sat in her bag all day. Only after finishing up in the evening did she remember to charge it. As soon as she turned it on, the screen displayed over a dozen missed calls, all from Mrs. Sterling. Just as Hazel prepared to call back, her mother called again. "Hazel, come back quickly." Her anxious voice carried sobbing. "Something happened to your dad?" Hazel rushed back with burning anxiety. Her mother was emotional, crying so hard she could barely speak. It took a long time for Hazel to understand the cause and effect. It turned out a partner of the Sterling Group was suddenly exposed for financial fraud, implicating her father. He was taken away by regulators for investigation, and now the entire Sterling Group was in chaos. Before the investigation results came out, multiple investors began terminating cooperation, causing the Sterling Group's cash flow to break directly. Mrs. Sterling, who never touched household affairs, was helpless in this situation and could only call Hazel back to think of a way together. Hazel had shadowed her father at work for a few days previously and had a rough understanding of the Sterling Group's operations. But if asked to save the company alone, she lacked the confidence and sufficient courage. Now that the arrow was on the bowstring, Hazel had to shoulder the responsibility and give it her all. Recently, a piece of land her father had long wanted was about to go on sale. This land was in a prime location. If secured, it was highly likely to bring the Sterling Group back from the dead. Thus, Hazel pushed back her later performances and began frequenting various social engagements. But her efforts were in vain. A few days later, that land was bought at a high price by a tycoon. Unwilling to give up, Hazel asked around and successfully snuck into a cocktail party hosted by the tycoon. She just hadn't expected that this behind-the-scenes tycoon would be Lucien. Lucien, hair slicked back and in an expensive suit, stood lazily in the center of the crowd. Wherever he went, countless fawning gazes followed him. Facing one greeting after another, he couldn't be bothered to lift his eyelids, treating them as air. Only when he saw Hazel holding a wine glass did Lucien show some spirit. "Isn't this Miss Sterling? Long time no see. Don't tell me you just came here to watch the fun." Hazel's hand holding the wine glass couldn't stop shaking. Why did the person she had to curry favor with have to be him? The speech she had practiced repeatedly at home was now stuck in her throat, making her want to retch. Seeing little reaction from her, Lucien didn't get angry, taking the initiative to clink glasses with her. Then, he leaned close to her ear, whispering as if sharing a secret, chuckling lightly. "I know why you came here. I've heard about the Sterling family's situation. As long as you obediently listen to me, I can give you that land." Hazel covered her ear, taking a step back in humiliation and anger. "Are you threatening me?" An uncertain guess formed in her mind, and she blurted out. "Lucien, the Sterling family's sudden trouble, it couldn't have something to do with you, right?" As soon as she asked, Hazel regretted it. Lucien clinked glasses with her again, the smile on his face unfathomable. "If you think it's related, then the culprit is me. In your eyes, isn't that exactly the kind of person I am?" Ultimately, Hazel agreed to Lucien's conditions. In this situation, she had no choice. Only Lucien could help save the Sterling Group. Compared to her pride, her father and the Sterling Group's safety were more important. Hazel didn't expect Lucien to take her back to that fishing island. After years of management, the fishing island looked brand new. Houses were painted blue and white. The fishing boats docked by the sea were all brand new, obviously expensive at a glance. The rugged dirt road at the door had been paved with exquisite, smooth floor tiles, and the house she grew up in had been rebuilt into a 2-story building. Lucien ignored Hazel's confused look, leading her inside on his own. The things she left behind were still there, their arrangement unchanged. Lucien put his arm around her, touring from the first floor to the second. "Hayes, are you happy? This is our shared home. We'll live here from now on, okay?" Lucien hugged Hazel from behind, chin resting on her shoulder, his tone almost pathological. Hazel felt no joy of returning home. She began to shudder, regretting her decision more and more. After spending a few days together, Hazel discovered Lucien was mentally unstable. He obsessively demanded she be like before, catching fish for him to eat, and wanting her to accompany him on the swing at night and sing nursery rhymes to lull him to sleep. Even more frantically, to trigger Hazel's memories, he even bought a dog that looked extremely similar to Pippin. For the future of the Sterling Group, Hazel gave up struggling, numbly playing the role-playing game with him every day. She tried many times to wake him up. Even if the original things were the same, they couldn't go back to the past. But Lucien refused to accept it. He insisted that now was a few years ago, frantically escaping reality. Hazel couldn't hold back and shouted angrily for the first time. "Lucien, look, clearly your legs are fine, and I don't like fishing anymore. My name is Hazel Sterling now. That Hazel Harper is just your fantasy." Lucien suddenly swept the food off the table onto the floor, holding his head in pain. "You're lying, aren't we living happily here?" "Hazel, where are you going? Are you trying to abandon me?" Hazel suddenly realized his state wasn't right. She suggested he see a psychologist, but he wouldn't listen. Hazel dared not provoke Lucien anymore. She was afraid he would lose control and accidentally hurt someone. Her communication devices were confiscated, and the island was full of his spies. It would be hard to escape in a short time. Hazel thought desperately. In the end, she was deceived by him again. As time passed, Hazel pretended to obey while counting the days. At night, she had to put scissors under her pillow to sleep. Perhaps seeing Hazel was too obedient, Lucien relaxed his vigilance and unexpectedly proposed taking her to the market. Passing a clothing store, Hazel deliberately stalled for time, saying she wanted to try on a dress. Lucien waited quietly outside. He looked at all the dresses in the store, beginning to fantasize about a wedding with Hazel. When the time came, he would order the most expensive wedding dress for her. He could give her whatever she wanted. She would surely be beautiful in a wedding dress. A smile involuntarily spread across Lucien's face. The warm sunlight shone on him, and his thoughts gradually returned to normal. Just then, the fitting room door made a sound. "Hayes, you're changed." Lucien turned back smiling, his hands suddenly cuffed with cold metal. He didn't wait for Hazel. Before him were stern-faced police officers. "Mr. Lancaster, after investigation, you are suspected of illegal detention. You are hereby arrested according to the law." Lucien didn't resist. He turned slowly, meeting Hazel's eyes not far away. Not long ago, Hazel had asked a passerby for help, borrowing a phone to contact her parents. After Hazel left with Lucien, her father was released. They had been looking for her for over a month. The Sterling couple hugged their daughter tightly, afraid that man would suddenly rush over to hurt her. "Officer, I have a request." Lucien couldn't bear to take his eyes off Hazel for a second. He pointed to his pocket. At his signal, the officer took out the pocket knife and handed it to Hazel for him. Seeing the knife, Hazel understood everything. The person she saved at the beach that year was indeed Lucien. Her attention was entirely on the knife when suddenly, Lucien broke free from the police restraint and lunged toward her. The police moved to draw their guns, but were stunned into holding their breath by the next scene. A van rushed out from nowhere, accelerating straight at Hazel Victoria in the car, let out a maniacal laugh. "Hazel Sterling, go to hell, all of you!" Bang! Hazel was pushed away by brute force, falling heavily to the ground. Lucien's lower body was caught under the wheels, leaving him dying. This gruesome sight brought tears streaming down Hazel's face on the spot. Lucien forced a smile, comforting her softly. "Hayes, don't cry." He grew weaker. Passers-by told him to stop talking and save his strength, but he insisted on speaking. Thank you for saving me back then. I'm sorry I failed you for so many years. With that, he took one last deep look at Hazel, then collapsed, motionless. Years later, a TV in a prison was broadcasting a holiday gala live. Renowned pianist Hazel Sterling had finished her performance and was being interviewed by the host. Miss Sterling, you play the piano so well. Can you share your experience with everyone? Dressed in a gown, Hazel was charming, her smile graceful and generous. The experience is, practice more piano, fall in love less. The host smelled gossip and immediately followed up. I heard you are still single. Is it convenient to share your first love experience with us? Hazel paused, the smile in her eyes gone. Her gaze held some sadness, seeming to penetrate the TV screen. I haven't been in love. I have no first love. Lucien in the wheelchair smiled bitterly. This was his 3rd year in prison after his legs were crushed. Knowing she was living well, he was relieved. What he owed her in this life, let him spend the rest of his life slowly repaying.